Are the Washington Wizards headed in the right direction? Yes. And I'm going to give you guys 3 reasons why. Next on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's good, fam? It's your boy Brandon Scott again, and I appreciate you guys making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you use your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. And tonight's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, everybody. The question for tonight is, are the Washington Wizards heading in the right direction? Yes. We are definitely heading into uncharted territory. And I'm going to give you guys 3 reasons why not only should you be optimistic that we're going to get back to being a winning franchise, a playoff team, but a sustainable championship contender, in my opinion, and the opinion of a lot of NBA execs. So let's get into it. 3 big reasons why the Washington Wizards are definitely headed in the right direction. All right, start with number 1, scouting and development. Now, when you hear about scouting and development, those are words that aren't usually associated with the Washington Wizards. We are notoriously known to be pretty bad at scouting talent, right? You know, not only missing on draft picks, but trading away first-round picks. I mean, if you look at the Ernie Grunfeld era, he just flat out missed on picks. He was in position to pick Stephen Curry. He traded that pick away for Mike Miller and Randy Foye. You know, he was in position to get Klay Thompson, failed on that. He's in position to get a lot of talent. And, you know, we ended up getting guys like Chris Singleton. Nothing against Chris Singleton, but he was not part of the equation long term. And, you know, John Vesley, that's obviously the biggest name that people usually point out to, you know, looking at failures in the Ernie Grunfeld area when it came to missing draft picks. But, you know, he traded away first-round picks more than he missed on draft picks. Yes, he was notoriously known for missing on draft picks, but he traded them away like it was nothing. And yes, the team, you know, whether it was the Gilbert Arenas era, whether it was the John Wall era, there were times when we were rebuilding, we missed on picks, and it killed his team as far as gaining young talent long term. But when he traded away, you know, the first round picks, you're trading away the future for players that most of the time never ended up staying on the team. You know, the best example to me was, I forget the year, but it was a year that we traded a first round pick to the Brooklyn Nets for Bogdanovich. And he was a 6-man guy. You know, he's that guy for the 2 and the 3 that was a central part of the playoff team. But we turn around, we didn't even re-sign the guy. So we gave up a first-round pick for a guy that played half a year. And that's just a failure in his part. And, you know, there's plenty of examples with Ernie Grunfeld, you know, trading away first-round picks. Trading a first-round pick to the Phoenix Suns for Markieff Morris. Now, I was a big fan and still remain a big fan of Markieff Morris. I think that he was a really good power forward for a playoff team. Under the John Wall era, you know, Bradley Beal, John Wall, Markieff Morris, Otto Porter, Marshall Gortat, Kelly Oubre, the list goes on. You know, his attitude, the dog factor, big fan of Markieff Morris. But we gambled our future away for a guy who, yes, he was a great piece of playoff teams in DC in the John Wall era. But, you know, he was just bad for trading away first-round picks that ended up really biting us in drafts where they were deep drafts with a lot of talent. And, you know, from the Wizards' perspective, we were unable to acquire talent. So scouting and development, getting back to the current state of affairs, present day, right? Number 1, Brian Keefe being hired was a tremendous move. You know, number 1, I already said number 1, but, you know, if you look at Brian Keefe, his resume of the players that he's helped develop, these guys not only end up being really good starters or even, you know, all-stars, but they're Hall of Famers. Most of these guys he's helped are going to be Hall of Famers. Now, you know, looking at OKC, Kevin Durant, Hall of Famer in my opinion of a lot of people. Russell Westbrook, same. James Harden, same. He was instrumental in that. You know, other players look at Kristaps Porzingis. You know, he's definitely an all-star talent player. Brandon Ingram, I think, is an all-star talent player. The list goes on, guys. You know, he has been essential in developing young players to not only be good starters, productive starters, all-star level talent, but guys who are headed towards the Hall of Fame. Now, obviously, right now, it's still way too early for Brandon Ingram and Kristaps Porzingis, but what he did in OKC, you know, the start of the show, obviously, it was the general manager's office, Sam Presti, but Brian Keith was instrumental in helping the front office in Oklahoma City develop this young talent that he drafted. And that's why I think he's very important in this rebuild because, his resume is immaculate and it speaks for itself. Again, a revamped scouting department. Scouting has been abysmal in Washington for a long time, as long as I've probably been alive, right? So we have a revamped scouting department. We have a coaching staff where they know how to scout. Or let me kind of backtrack. We have a coaching staff that knows how to develop young talent, to get the most out of young players. We have a front office that knows how to scout talent, that knows how to find those diamonds in the rough. If you look at what they got going on again in OKC, which is the model for the Washington Wizards, they have a nice young team. I mean, Holmgren, he's going to be good at center for a long time. I mean, Williams at power forward. The list goes on. The SGA. And then while they didn't draft SGA, he was drafted by the Clippers, and they traded for him in the Paul George trade. You still scouting is not just for the draft. When people send scouts, it's not just to look at college scouts or college players or, overseas. You're looking at other teams too. But, anytime you're close to the deadline, and this is for somebody who's been a Cat 1 and have seen the scouts there, looking at Wizards players. When you get to the close to the deadline, scouts are looking at current NBA players and see if they can fit the system. Can they coexist with certain players on the roster? So scouting is important not only for finding young talent in the draft, but it's important in finding good trade targets. Finding players who can be implemented in Brian Keith's system and can be long-term pieces to help support Bilal Coulibaly, Alex Sarr, and hopefully Cooper Flagg or Ace Bailey. So scouting is very important. Now let's get into, again, development. You have to develop these young players. And Washington, again, is notoriously known in the past for not getting the most out of young players. There were some players that were drafted in the Ernie Grunfeld era, and you can argue the Tommy Shepard era, that if they were properly developed, they could have been productive players. And so, and there's some players that weren't. Looking at Tommy, the biggest thing with Tommy is, his trade game was on point till his last couple of years. And then when he traded for Monte Morris and Will Barton, to me, that was the nail in the coffin for Tommy Shepard. But looking at his trade game, or not his trade game, his draft game, it's not that his draft picks weren't good draft picks. They didn't fit the current timeline the Washington Wizards was in, which with Bradley Beal, Kristaps Porzingis, and Kyle Kuzma forming a solid three. We needed guys to come in and contribute right away. And they, Denny had to be, Denny Avdia, which I think is going to be a really good player in this league. He had to be developed. Corey Kispert had to be developed. Rui Hachimura had to be developed. Johnny Davis is still in his developmental stage. So they didn't fit the timeline. Now, if you look at the players we acquired these last two drafts, they fit the timeline, which is we are early on in the rebuild. We are early on in a rebuild. And you see that because all five players are underneath the age of 21. They're going early. And I've mentioned it time and time again that there were players 3-4 months ago that easy were part of the future. Denny, 23 years old. Look at the fact that we drafted him, developed him. He broke out and signed him to an extension. At one point, to me, he was a long-term piece. Same thing with Jordan Poole when they acquired him from Golden State. Same thing with Corey Kispert. Rui Hachimura was at one point until they found a deal, which wasn't the best deal. Kendrick Nunn ended up going overseas. So we practically gave him to the Los Angeles Lakers for a bag of chips and a half smoke. So, we have the scouting and development have to work in tandem, man. And not only for young players in the draft, but finding players who can be implemented in Brian Keith's system to help support these draft picks that we bring into DC. So like I said, scouting and development, I'm very, very excited because this is an area that the Washington Wizards have gotten better. A revamped scouting department and a coaching staff where development is the first, second, and third priority. And that's what they need early on in this rebuild because it's going to take a while. But if done right, we will have a sustainable championship contending team. We have to be patient, but scouting and development is definitely the first step towards getting to that goal. So we're going to get into veterans. Why are veterans important in this rebuild process for the Washington Wizards, and why are they a key with the Wizards heading in the right direction? I'm going to tell you guys why. But before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you by Gametime. So you guys know I go to games all the time. I'm a sports fanatic, man. Right now it's baseball season. I've been to 3 O's games, 3 Nats games, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of chill because it's about to be football season. And on Saturday, I will be in B-More watching the Las Vegas Raiders play the Baltimore Ravens. First time at M&T Bank Stadium, man. Like I said, I'm a devoted Commanders fan, but I'm rolling up here to B-More to see the Ravens play. But look, Gametime is better than all the other apps, and there's 3 reasons why. Well, number one, priority, game time picks. Creation makes it easier to save more on sports events, but not only sports events, concerts, comedy shows, theater events, etc. What else do I like? The lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Woo! I'm trying to tell y'all, man. Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. I'm going to say it again, in the ticketing industry. Come on, rock with me now. All right, so take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time, baby. Thank you guys for making Locked On Wizards your first listen of the day. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On NBA podcast. There is no off-season in the NBA. Let me tell y'all. And Locked On NBA provides daily basketball analysis from national and local experts in 30 minutes or less. No one keeps you as informed and entertained as Locked On NBA. Available on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. All right, everybody, let's get back into it. Veterans. Part number 2. The second reason why the Washington Wizards are headed in the right direction. We're definitely cooking with grease, man. We are definitely, like I mention all the time, man. The quote by Sun Tzu, the author of Tao Te Ching. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Scouting and development, with the hiring of Brian Keefe, revamping the scouting department, was that first step. What's the second step? What's the second reason why the Wizards are heading in the right direction? Easy. Veterans. Now, last season, a lot of people felt that a lot of the veterans on the roster should have been moved, and rightfully so. We saw talent like Tyus Jones walk for nothing, even though the likelihood that he was going to do so was it was a very real possibility. But you want to get some kind of value for your veterans on your roster. So let's pull up the vets on the roster real quick. And they're going to look at the timeline, because I believe the timeline is 3 years till it becomes a youth movement and we start re-signing guys like Bilal Coulibaly. So veterans, why are they important? Number one, mentoring young talent. If you look at point guard, Jordan Poole is very, very young. He does have championship experience. He is a veteran, technically. He's still a very young player. He's a very young player who, in certain ways, may still be acclimating to being in D.C. as opposed to being in the Bay Area. He went from the situation where he was a young player sitting behind future Hall of Famers in Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. And now, he's one of, he's kind of a co-captain between him and Kyle Kuzma, being that 1-2 punch scoring wise and as far as responsibility on the offensive end. So, looking at point guard, Malcolm Brogdon is going to carry some importance, just like Tyus Jones is. Tyus Jones was the perfect floor general. He's a guy he was that perfect floor general point guard. Not looking to score first, looking to get other people involved, pass first, definitely trying to set other people up. He had a floater, he had a 3-point shot, but he was a guy who was looking to, distribute before score. Now, Jordan Poole is a scoring-minded guard. Now, looking to be a point guard. He's got to learn how to be a point guard, how to kind of scale back scoring a little bit and learn to be a distributor, a guy who's looking to set people up. Because, look, the point guard is the quarterback in basketball, man. You are the guy that runs the show. You're the MC. Public Enemy, man. Everybody knows Flavor Flav and that big old chain and him talking crazy, man. But, look, start of the show was who? Chuck D. Chuck D was the man who ran Public Enemy, for all you hip-hop fans out there. So, and the list goes on, man. I mean, the MC, just like Guru and Gangstar, he is the front man. He is the man who runs the show. So, Jordan Poole has to learn the intricacies of being a point guard. I think that's why Malcolm Brogdon is a very important figure as far as the development of not only Jordan Poole, but Bob Carrington, and maybe even Jared Butler, who's another young guard. Same thing with Kyle Kuzma, a guy who's played in L.A., got a championship ring. I love the bubble ring. It is a championship, and he's played with LeBron James. And like I said, I'm an old head. I'm an '85 baby. MJ's still my guy, but you have to give respect where it's due. And LeBron James is definitely gonna go down. It's one of the best, if not the best. And like I said, I'm an MJ guy, but as far as a complete player, you have to give the nod to LBJ. Let's be real. But he's got experience. He's learned with some of the best players in the league. Anthony Davis, the list goes on. So he's a guy where his experience and the other parts of being a professional is important. And he can teach these guys like Bilal Coulibaly. He can teach it, so mentorship is very important. Same thing with Jonas Valanciunas. He's going to do well trying to man up Alex Sarr a little bit. Because, Alex Sarr, I think that he's high potential. He's got star potential. But he needs to to be more aggressive. And I think that Jonas Valanciunas is a guy who plays with the chips on his shoulder. Is going to push him in practice. He's going to make him a better player. So mentorship is key. What else with veterans? Well, easy. Flipping them for draft picks, which, again, we're going to get into draft picks in a minute because draft compensation is a double-edged sword, okay? So there are a couple reasons why draft picks are very important. It's not just for the future, but also for getting over that hump when you want to be that contending team. But let's step back real quick, get back to veterans. Getting value out of your veterans. The only knock against Will Dawkins probably would be Tyus Jones. And to me, it's not really a big knock because I knew there was a possibility that he was going to walk for nothing. And the same thing, KP. KP was slated to walk for nothing. So the fact that we were able to get anything is a blessing in disguise. And they both practically walk for nothing. But sometimes it can be addition by subtraction. I believe the best course of actions, especially at point guard, is Jordan Poole. Now, could you have still got a faster offense with Tyus Jones? You very well could have. But Jordan Poole is just an electrifying point guard, man, with his ability to not only push the pace in transition, but attack the basket. He's a guy who, again, if he can learn from a Malcolm Brogdon, if he can learn from other vets like an Anthony Gill, man, and really learn the intricacies of being a point guard, not just scoring, but how to set people up, how to run the offense, how to, dictate the flow of the offense. I think he's going to do an immaculate job, and I think he's going to have a career season. So, veterans are important, and these veterans on the roster. And like I said, we're going to get into because, like I said, to me, the timeline is 3 years. So I'm looking at the salary cap situation with the Wizards and the salary. So what happens in 3 years? Now, because there is no contract that goes beyond 3 years. Now, the potential contracts obviously would be Keyshawn George, Bob Carrington, Alex Sarr, and Bilal Coulibaly. But every other player on the roster does not go beyond 3 years. Jordan Poole has 3 years left. Kyle Kuzma has 3 years left. Malcolm Brogdon's on an inspiring contract with Sean Holmes has 2 years. Bagley is on an inspiring contract with $12.5 million. Jonas Valanciunas 3 years. Sadiq Bey 3 years. Corey Kispert is an inspiring contract, and he's going to be a restricted free agent. Johnny Davis 2 years, but we'll see if he's even going to be on the team opening day. Patrick Baldwin Jr. is the same. Do they pick his option up? We shall see, because there is still a team option not only on Corey Kispert but on Johnny Davis and Patrick Baldwin Jr. and Jared Butler. Last year of his guaranteed contract. Next year it will be a team option. So, like I said, if you look at the timeline, it is going to be on 3 years. Because after 3 years, they're going to re-sign Bilal Coulibaly if he ends up being a player they hope him to be. And I think he will. He is high potential. He's got star potential. Now, is he the face of the franchise? Right now, I'm going to say no. I think that the face of the franchise is in the draft coming up. If you look at the top 10, even the top 5 players in the draft coming up, they have high star potential. They have face of the franchise potential. Cooper Flagg, he comes to DC, he'll be the face of the franchise. But Alex Sarr and Bilal Coulibaly and Bub Carrington and Keyshawn George and even Tristan Vucevic, they are a great compliment to a player like a Cooper Flagg or an Ace Bailey. So, face of the franchise, is Bilal that guy yet? No, but he is definitely what they're building on. The core right now is definitely Bilal and Alex Sarr. That is your core. And Bub Carrington, because I think Bub Carrington is going to be a star too. I mean, you have 3 guys who have high star potential, but also in the case of Bilal and Alex Sarr, the fact that they're French players, you have the marketability, kind of like when it came to Denny and Israel and fans from Israel. Definitely shout out to all the fans in Israel. Like I said, it was definitely an experience last 3 years with you guys. A lot of basketball minds as far as Israeli fans, man. And same thing with Japanese fans. When Rui was in DC. The marketability of Rui and Denny, there's marketability there as far as, garnering interest from overseas fans. So that's something else to think about when it comes to business, because Ted Leonsis, look, hate him or love him. I know he got a lot of flack from trying to move the team to Virginia. And I'm not going to throw my opinion there because I've done that before. I didn't have a problem with the potential move. He's a businessman, but I'm not going to get into that. I know a lot of people are not happy. I'm from Virginia. No matter where they play, I'm gonna come watch them. So, it's a little more convenient being in Virginia, but DC, Maryland, I don't care. I don't care if they're in Delaware. I'm gonna come watch my boys play, man. So, but that's the business side of it. There's marketability of it. So, like I said, vets are very, very important for mentorship, but not only that, but flipping them. So you best believe, looking at the situation with the salary cap, 3 years. Now, could there be players that could be part of the future? Jordan Poole is a guy who very well could still be a part of the future. Sadiq Bey, both of them are currently 25 years old. Corey Kispert, 25 years old. So, but again, the timeline has changed a little bit, right? Now, Johnny Davis is 22, but I think that we've seen enough from Johnny Davis. And hopefully the young man works his tail off in the offseason and he shows them something more, man. But I think the jury's out, and I think that the ship has sailed when it comes to Johnny Davis, man. But I mean, these guys are young; they're building on. Keyshawn George is 20, Bob Carrington is 19, Vucevic 21, Bilal 20. So Vuk can drink, but he's from the Balkans, so they've been drinking since they were like 12. So that was never an issue with him. Let's see, and Alex Sarr is 19. So the timeline has changed. So like I said, 3 years is when all the money's going to be off the books, and they're going to re-sign Bilal and start re-signing these guys. Alex Sarr, Bob Carrington, and then the draft, Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper, the list goes on. So they're definitely heading in the right direction. That second step of adding veteran leadership and mentorship is very important in the rebuild, and it's very important in the Washington Wizards rebuild. So we're going to look at the third reason why draft picks are so important for a team like the Washington Wizards, and why they have done a great job so far, and why there is a double-edged sword when it comes to draft picks. So, but before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts. I'm going to repeat that. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep it ride or die live at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, everybody. Let's get into draft picks. The third and final reason why I believe the Washington Wizards are headed in the right direction to become a sustainable winning franchise. So let's take a look at the draft pick situation, because Will Dawkins has done an immaculate job, man, acquiring draft picks. But you probably wondering, what is the double-edged sword about draft picks? Why do these fit two purposes? Number one, obviously, acquiring young talent to the draft, right? You definitely have to. And that's where, every step is important. Scouting and development, scouting the talent in the draft, scouting talent in the later stages of the first round, scouting talent in the second round. This is important. You have to find, you have to hit the top 10. You have to hit the lottery. But you best believe you have to find these diamonds in the rough in its later stages of the first round and in the second round and develop them. You have to develop these players. You have to develop them, make them fit the system. And, you have to develop these guys, get these guys ready for prime time, man. And this is why veteran leadership is important, because you have to have guys that show them the ropes, the guys that show them not only the on-court production part of being a player, but diet, practice, going on runs. There's certain things to keep yourself ready for the NBA season. There's a lot of players are putting videos out there where they're playing the tournaments, they're playing the leagues, they're playing in the gym. As opposed to football or baseball, where football players aren't really out there playing in football leagues in the off season, right? But it's a more contact sport. But with basketball, ball's life. Usually a lot of guys are playing year round, man, year round. So, but the second thing, right? What is the second reason why draft picks are important? Because when you want to acquire that talent, that one last trade, like a Donovan Mitchell to Cleveland, when you want to make that big move, like a potential move of Paul George to DC, it takes draft picks. If you look at every major trade, it takes draft compensation to make it happen, because for a team that wants to flip that one piece that's no longer part of the future, they want future in return, and that's draft picks. So draft picks are important, and that's why, again, looking at OKC, where you're acquiring veteran talent and young talent, but also draft picks are very, very important. Take a look at the draft picks they have in OKC. There's a treasure trove of draft picks, and we're starting to get like that in DC real quick. So looking at the picks real quick, guys, before we move on. 2025, we have 3 second-round picks, and obviously we have restrictions on the pick for the draft coming up, but chances are we're going to get that pick. 2026, we have 2 first-rounders, our own, and a pick swap with the Phoenix Suns, and we also have 4 second-round picks. Let's see, 2027, we have our own first-rounder, and we have, Lord have mercy, 4 second-round picks. 2028, we have our own, we have a pick swap, and we also have the second-round pick for the Portland Trailblazers in 2028. 2029, we have 1, 2 first-round picks. We also have the Lakers' second-round pick. Now, this is where it starts to get sexy, right? 2030, we have 3 first-round picks. We have our own, the Golden State Warriors. Now, it is protected, picks 1 through 20, so there's restrictions on it, but we also have pick swaps with the Phoenix Suns. And looking at second-round picks in 2030, we have 3 second-round picks, our own, the Trailblazers, and the Phoenix Suns. And then, of course, 2031, we have our own first and second-round picks. So we are starting to pick up a lot of picks, man. And like I said, it's important to find young talent in the next couple drafts, especially in 2026 and 2027. You can kind of stretch it 2025 to 2026, and you kind of stretch it to 2027. But you best believe the next 2 drafts are very important for the Washington Wizards. But when we start gelling, especially after 3 years, when Bilal becomes a central figure, when Alex Sarr gets paid, when Bob Carrington officially becomes maybe the point guard or the 2 guard if Jordan Poole is still the guy at point, you'll have picks to go find that 1 or 2 pieces that we need to add, that star piece, again, like the Donovan Mitchell, the Rudy Gobert to Minnesota. The list goes on. That one guy that pushes us over the top. The one piece we never had with John Wall. That Paul Pierce, that move that could have made this a championship team with Bradley Beal and John Wall in the backcourt. You throw Paul George in there with Markieff Morris, Otto Porter on the bench, Kelly Oubre on the bench, and Marcin Gortat. Me personally, I think that's a championship team. So, like I said, draft picks are important. So, I'm going to reiterate real quick the 3 reasons why you should be optimistic that the Washington Wizards are heading in the right direction and are going to build a sustainable, contending team. Number 1, scouting and development. Number 2, veterans. And number 3, draft picks. So you guys get in the comment section. Let me know what you're thinking. And let me know if I'm tripping or am I on point. You guys definitely let me know. So I got some news real quick before we roll out. A couple things happened this week. Number 1, assistant coach Zach Guthrie accepted the job with the Los Angeles Lakers to be the head coach of the G League affiliate in South Bay. So he quickly came and went, and he is on his way to the Lakers to be the head coach for their G League affiliate. Also dropping today, the Kansas City Go-Go have acquired guard Jalen Noel from the Stockton Kings in exchange for Jules Bernard to the Cleveland Charge in a 3-team trade. Again, just like my man Will Dawkins, look, Amber Nichols, man, she is cooking like an air fryer for being the GM for the Kansas City Go-Go. So again, we have good leadership here in the district, not only with the Wiz, but with our G League affiliate with Amber Nichols, because she's been doing her thing for a while now. So definitely a good move on her part. Like I said, tough to see Jules Bernard go, but like I said, I do like Jalen Noel, man. He's scrappy, man. So we're gonna go ahead and roll, guys. Again, let me know, guys, what you guys think. These are the 3 main reasons why I think we're definitely heading in the right direction. One thing you guys have to show is a fan base patience, man. We haven't been through a proper rebuild, guys. Right now, we have a front office. President of basketball operations, Michael Winger, is doing an immaculate job, and he's going to steer this team into the future. Will Dawkins is cooking, man. Let him cook. And Travis Schlenk, he's part of this thing, man. Look, these 3 guys are evaluators. They're scouts, and they know how to find the guys who know how to develop. Brian Keith. We are starting to slowly but surely put all the right pieces in the right situations, man, and we will be all right. Like I said, the draft is very important, especially in the next couple of years. But we are starting to put all the right pieces in the right places. And I think with these 3 areas, we are definitely headed in the right direction. So again, get in the comment section. Let me know what you guys are thinking, man. Am I tripping or am I on point? You guys, let your boy know, man. So again, I will see you guys tomorrow. I will not be dropping a video on Friday. I have an early meeting, so I'm going to go ahead and knock out content early. So I'm going to go over the regular season preview. We're going to look at contracts, picks, training camp battles. We're going to look at the lineup a little bit. So I'm going to do my official 2024 to 2025 Washington Wizards regular season preview. So definitely rock with your boy Thursday, man. And again, I will not be going live Friday, but next week I will be doing so. So definitely appreciate you guys, man. So again, I will see you guys tomorrow night. Hail to the Wizards and peace. See you guys next time.